Hello, and welcome back to some more Dominion commentary. This is a match in the Renaissance Cage Match tournament between Ospond and Xyrix. I have pulled up the bracket this time, so you can see here this is in the second round. They're using Academy as the Cage Match card. So if you're not familiar with Cage Match, that means that you play all of your games with one particular card included in every kingdom. And for this tournament, the format is that they're all cards from Renaissance, and there's a different card for every match. Going through the bracket, you can see the upcoming ones above the matches, and the player who wins is the first player to 3, and this is not the background that I tried to choose. I did decide to change my background, but it wasn't to that one. This one. That's the one. All right. So, what do we have here? We have Hermit for estate trashing, and there is also Magpie for drawing your treasures, but there is no copper trashing, which makes Royal Blacksmith potentially pretty bad. It also makes Chariot Race maybe not that great. Oh, I guess I should actually show off Academy since that's the cage match card. So yeah, when you gain an action card, you get +1 villagers. So there's probably not going to be any boards where you're just stuck playing like one terminal action or something to that effect in this matchup, just because of the presence of Academy enabling you to at least play multiple actions some amount of the time, even with no villages. Here, of course, we have Throne Room as a village option, as well as just acting troop or the villagers off of Academy. Let's see. So Xyrix. Oh, I said estate trashing, but they've got shelters. But you know, same concept. So yeah, Xyrix opened with a Hermit. They're talking about a 2-5 split for some reason, even though neither player has a 2-5 split, so I'm not really sure what that's about in the chat. I would imagine that we'll see Magpie Hermit from both players, because I don't really see a whole lot of other great initial options. Oh, wait, Advanced Necropolis, never mind. That's why they're talking about it. Okay. So the options out of that are all a little awkward, though, to me. So Den causes your turn 2 buy to miss your shuffle. Rebuild seems is generally not as strong on a shelters board, and probably is not going to be the strongest thing you can do on this board. Seer isn't really drawing you anything yet because nothing in your deck costs from 2 to 4 because you have shelters. So while I do think Advanced Necropolis is a good idea, I'm not actually convinced you want to do it on the opening here. Okay, so Ospond takes the rebuild. He can rebuild over Gurn Estate. And Xyrix goes with just the Hermit Magpie approach. And also hits 5, which is nice. Seer and Magpies. Seer to draw Magpies, Magpies to draw Coppers is definitely a nice way of dealing with the lack of copper trashing. So it looks like Ospond is going pretty hard for rebuild here with the Duchy buy. And as Freaky is pointing out, he's also gotten pretty excellent shuffle luck to this point. So we'll see if this is able to outrace whatever xyrix ends up trying to do. But now ospond fought a hermit, which is interesting. Hermits can gain estates, but that's not generally what you want to be doing with rebuild. You just want to be going straight to duchies, if at all possible. So I'm not sold on going in for hermit as ospond. So meanwhile, xyrix picked up a chariot race. I'm also not sold on chariot race because of the lack of copper trashing. So like obviously in theory alt VP is a good way to counteract the pressure from rebuild, but with in the absence of copper trashing and with ospond potentially fairly soon actually he already has put a province into his deck. I just not convinced that that's really going to do much to help. And here, of course, he can't even play his. Oh, never mind. Okay, so he was actually able to get a point because he still had his hermit in hand. I hadn't caught that. Oh, yeah. So they're discussing the fact that Hermit says when you discard this from play, if you didn't buy any cards this turn, but if you advance, you aren't considered to have bought a card. So you can, play your Hermit, gain something, buy advance, trash another action, gain a more expensive action, and then trash your Hermit, gain a Madman, which is pretty strong. So I haven't discussed the fact that ospond is indeed gaining estates. Is he going to do that again? He actually bought an estate a couple turns ago. Yeah, he does it again. I really don't like that. I think that he has the potential to just choke on those estates. And what you want to be doing as the rebuild player is moving towards the end of the game as quickly as possible, which means you want to be finding your duchies with your rebuild as much as possible so that you burn through the provinces. In fact, with 2 provinces, I mean, ideally you want to get at least 3, but with 2 provinces, you might even be like okay with starting to mill provinces for now, given that, well, xyrix does have 6 points off of those chariot races. That's actually kind of a lot. So maybe that wouldn't really be safe, but still, I don't think you want to be messing around with estates. In any case, it certainly doesn't look like this is a game that's going to focus on like the academy. Freaky says province time. Perhaps. I can definitely see the argument for just continuing to pick up the chariot races and focus on that sorts of points for as long as you can, and then just grab a couple provinces towards the end. Certainly seems to be working out for him that he's picking up those points more so than I had expected. And I think that's because I wasn't accounting for the way that you can sort of set your deck up, potentially not needing to play the chariot race until you know that you're not drawing coppers with it. And I still don't think it's like super reliable, but you have a little bit more control over it than I was initially thinking. Another estate. Yikes. There are currently enough duchies for ospond to plow through all of those estates, but he's only got one rebuild, and Xyrix could easily buy some of those duchies out from under him. Okay, advanced Magpie into rebuild. I like that play. And these chariot races are doing a lot of work for Xyrix right now. I don't know how likely it is at any given time that ospond has a copper on top. I guess estate on top is about as good for Xyrix because everything in his deck that isn't his coppers beats Xyrix's estates as well, which is another reason not to want estates as ospond. But yeah, I mean he's outscoring him. Well, okay, he did pick up a province. He's almost outscoring him just on the back of the chariot race points alone. So this does look pretty lost for ospond at this point. I don't think ospond's deck is capable of pivoting to some other strategy either. He just hasn't put enough good stuff into his deck. Reveals copper again. Dang. That is just insane. Well, maybe it's not insane, but it's certainly fortunate for Xyrix. I mean, the math on how many points you'd be expected to get through chariot races is complicated. I think it's I think he did get lucky there, but as Freaky is suggesting in the chat, I also think that not only do I think that rebuild was probably not the correct line to begin with, I also think that the way that Xyrix approached it. What is going on? With this background stuff. The way Xyrix the way that ospond approached it was probably not optimal either with the estate buys. I really would have just gone straight for the duchies and try to pile it out as quickly as possible, especially against a player who could invest in chariot races. Alright, so here we have Hermit again and also Sacrifice. So there is not fast trashing, but there is enough trashing to get rid of all your starting cards. Hunting Party, always good draw. What else are you doing on this board? Citadel allows you to double play an action. That doesn't... as the chat is discussing, there's no plus buy on this board, and there's no gainers other than Hermit, which isn't gaining anything impressive. So I mean, you can build a reliable deck, but probably the goal is just to get to province per turn and just leave it at that. I mean, you could potentially throw some fairgrounds into. So with native village, you can store a couple of your starting cards to round out your fairgrounds. You can have Like native village. Let's see. Well, so estate, copper, silver, gold, province, probably a duchy at some point. Hunting party, native village. Probably keep a hermit around. You could have some. You could have faithful hounds. Hunting party, faithful hound is kind of a synergy. So it shouldn't be too difficult to get fairgrounds to be worth 4 points at least. I don't think 6 is a realistic goal. Interesting. So xyrix picks up a beggar. And who opened double hermit? xyrix. What is the plan with that? People are talking about counting house. I mean, the problem I see with that is you're still only getting to 8, like, and buying a province. So like, it seems just like a less reliable way of going about it than getting hunting parties. I guess the fact that you don't have gains means any form of like plus buy or gaining means that getting a bunch of hunting parties is also slow in its own right. So maybe this is better. Oh, I see. You combine beggar with madman and you can have like a whole. Oh, but well, you can't play your beggar before your madman unless you get like a native village or something. Okay, well this is certainly a very different line than either I was expecting or have seen before. Yeah, Beggar Citadel does turn your beggars into terminal uh well, terminal plus 6. That's well, that's a couple provinces for ospond and now an unsurprising 5 coin hand. See, he could conceivably get a counting house here. Or he might just get another beggar. So the question is going to be, in a lot of ways, the question is going to be how frequently does xyrix see his beggars? I guess he's just going to keep the madman around until he has a hand with a madman and no beggars. I was talking about like, oh, you can make your madman better with the beggar copper gaining, and that's true, but not really the point. So right now, Ospond is actually winning on the strength of sacrificing an estate, which could actually be relevant because um, it's not there's not really going to be an opportunity for xyrix to match that point from the estate trash. Wait, did he? Okay, yeah, he just got a duchy because of being down a point, not because he didn't hit 8, which is exactly the problem I was pointing to with not having picked up a sacrifice. So how did Xyrix hit Citadel in the first place? Wait. Hermit, Hermit. Oh, did he play a Madman? Yeah, that's how. Okay. That makes sense. Alright, so Xyrix has spotted that he does not have a beggar left in his shuffle, as was being discussed in the chat, and so goes ahead and grabs a province. So this is interesting. So currently Ospond has 5 coins. He wants to hit 8. He can hit 6 if he sacrifices copper. There's an argument to be made for sacrificing copper before drawing, because drawing copper might be good enough, depending on what the first hunting party card drawn is. And if he has to skip over copper, and he's also skipping over silver, of course, then potentially he doesn't draw any money. Okay, so Ospond discards the silver in a province. So I guess he didn't actually have any copper left anyway. I don't know how he's going to even grab the last province. Is it even possible for him at this point? Yeah, I think that Donald X has pointed out, if Ospond had sacrificed Hunting Party, he would have had a chance to buy the last province, but as it is... So, of course, Ospond doesn't know this. It happens to be the case that Xyrix can't buy Duchy now, so this is the time for Ospond to grab just like a little bit more economy. Let's see what he does. Freaky and Psychomatic are recommending Beggar. Ospond apparently agrees, but then does not have a good draw. So Xyrix finally offsets the sacrifice trash differential by buying an estate. Ospond can match that here, but buys a hermit instead. Huh. Well, it didn't matter. Xyrix manages to pull it out after his shuffle. So that was a very interesting game. I think I don't know. I don't why does the background keep changing? Dang. I don't know which strategy I actually think was better overall. Certainly, I think xyrix should have sacrificed his hunting party if he knew the contents of his discard pile, and then might have won on that turn. But it was a very close match either way. All right, anyway, so on this board we have Temple as our Trasher. I think we can safely assume both players will be picking up. Probably just Temple Silver. There is, once again, no plus buy, which makes Highway sad. Although you can at least use Highway to enable Vampire to gain Province, which is kind of cool. Oh, I guess Bat is the other trashing. So maybe somebody will issue Temple in favor of going for that, but I doubt it. Yeah, I mean you should be able to get reasonably thin. You got Caravan, Herald, Highway, Ghost Ship, and Crown and Mystic are all cards that can enable deck control, and there's some payload in there as well. So I definitely think there's reason to build. And of course there's also pathfinding. So I kind of like the idea of trying to aim for a double province turn where you buy a province and gain a province with Vampire. Maybe you even just get a bunch of vampires and treat them as gainers primarily. So they go in for Ghost Ship as the first 5 cost. That makes a lot of sense. Ghost Ship is painful. I actually failed to note the fact that ospond did indeed skip Temple, and I assume is going to focus on trashing with Bat. I'm not a huge fan of that. Bat is not fast trashing. I would like to see both players pick up additional vampires. I just think the gaining here off of Vampire is really important. And ospond does do that in exchange for not trashing copper that you could have trashed, which is fine. This is a little unfortunate of a distribution for xyrix, but yeah, I guess it's just the same dilemma. Do you want to buy another vampire or do you want to trash? I think I would probably buy the vampire actually, because you don't want to over trash. Something else to note, we are on the 3rd game. If xyrix were to win, there's a chance that we would go the entire cage match without the cage match card having been purchased. So xyrix did not gain or not did not buy a vampire. He bought a highway, which is interesting. I think I'd have rather just gained the or bought the vampire and gained the highway or something. But and the unfortunate thing, I'm talking up the idea of having multiple vampires. The unfortunate thing about that is that it's hard to sustain in the long run because you have to go through the bat cycle. And there's nothing else to gain fodder for your bats, so it probably 2 is the most you can reasonably sustain. And even then, not indefinitely. Maybe even what you do is you stick with 1 for most of the game and then pick up the second one towards the end when you have 3 highways and can gain provinces off of them. Needs a mystic. Why a mystic rather than another highway or crown or something? Well, now he doesn't have a mystic anymore. Now he has a herald, which seems fine. Although I guess xyrix probably does need more economy. That might have been part of the reason he picked up the mystic. So I think here, well, xyrix can, I guess, afford to trash a copper, but okay, he didn't. Yeah, I was gonna say I'd be tempted not to and to save that for the bat. Like 2 coppers is 2 more plays of bat. Meanwhile, for ospond, yeah, I guess just picking up another highway is fine. I'm wondering when he wants to pick up that other temple. It has the advantage both of giving him points and of fueling his bat, or bats, I should say, because he's got 2 vampire bats. Oh, xyrix did trash with temple this turn. He hit temple with, I guess you don't have the choice to not do so, but I think that means, yeah, the temple's got to go next time around with the bat, although he doesn't have the bat in hand right now. I mean, in his deck. Whoa, ospond gained a 3rd vampire. That's going to be difficult to manage. It also has the downside that you're more likely to have heralds that don't do anything. Alright, so xyrix probably has more highways than anything else in those 5 cards. By which I mean I think he has 2. I guess you could... Oh, never mind. Pathfinding, of course. I was going to say, I guess you could trash silver here, but no, pathfinding is definitely a good choice. You can always trash the silver later with a bat. And also having pathfinding means that the stop cards are much less obstructing. Is that a word? Well, it's starting to look like the advantages of being thin are making themselves clear. Like, Temple is not the greatest trasher in the world, but it is definitely a faster trasher than Bat. And even though ospond has multiple bats, it's still a slow process. And Xyrix does now have the ability to do Vampire Gain Province, so that's pretty good. Alright, well, that's the end of the match quite quickly in that game. Xyrix did a pretty good job of building up his lead there. Yeah, so less than an hour. There's another match coming up in 15 minutes. There's more matches after that. I may end up calling several of them. We'll see how that goes. But meanwhile, Xyrix advances to play Freaky with Treasure as the card. And I think... What is the match that's coming up? I think it's this one, Haka 3 versus Fearcole for Canal. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.